Last night, MSNBC host Joy Reid was caught on a hot mic. So, I'm going to play this video, and I'm going to take a little bit of a turn in terms of, where this discussion goes, because I'm not really too concerned about what Joy Reid said here. I have a greater curiosity about something else, but here's the clip.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war. Still trying to kill the deal. He bragged about blocking progress and said, please blame him if it fails.
Starting another effing war. That was the hot mic moment. I got a few things to say here, and it's not really about that, because we don't know what that was in reference to. It could be in reference to the border crisis with Greg Abbott. It could be in reference to the Middle East. It seems sort of out of context for the clip that was playing. But since we don't know what that was in reference to, it doesn't make sense to draw any real conclusions from it. What we can maybe draw some conclusions from or discuss a little further is why this was such a big deal. This made headline after headline. Newsweek, Variety, Fox News, Daily Beast, Deadline, The Wrap, the Daily Mail in the UK. This made international news. HuffPost, Mediaite, and I'm sure more. And just to be clear, if you care, she apologized later on for swearing. Okay, no one cares. This is, I find this so interesting. And it's not because I'm above this. I'm not above this. When I saw that there was a hot mic moment, I clicked that video immediately. I wanted to see what Joy Reid said, because it's fascinating to see who these people are behind the scenes, what we're not supposed to hear. That is in itself fascinating, which is why this makes so many headlines. None of these headlines have any deeper analysis about, what this means or why people care. It's very surface level, and it's because this is simply for the headline clicks. That's it. And this gets to what I want to take out of this moment. We should know who these anchors are. We should know their personalities. We should know their perspectives. The fact that this made so many headlines kind of goes to an issue with the news generally. We don't know who these people are. We generally don't know what their perspectives are. And this also leads to an issue with bias. People think, well, if a news anchor gives a perspective, then that's inserting their bias into the news. When in reality, it's not. It's separating the two. A news anchor should be able to deliver what the actual news is objectively, and then be able to have a perspective. It doesn't mean they have to have a perspective on every single topic, because no one has a perspective on every topic. But if there is a perspective there, they should be allowed to share that perspective and make it clear that this is their perspective in relation to this objective news report. This does not insert bias into reporting. If anything, it generates more trust of that news anchor, because we now know who you are. We now are able to separate the actual news reporting from what your perspective is. This goes generally, I think, to why a lot of people mistrust or don't have trust in media, is because we don't often trust what we're being told. And this goes to my biggest issue with news. It's the framing of stories. Since there is no perspective that is allowed to be offered, the perspective we are given often is the perspective of that corporate news outlet and their editors. And that goes to the framing of the story. So, I've covered framing of various issues. I bet if you look up the word framing on YouTube, on my channel, you'll find various stories where I discuss, the misframing of whatever news report. But I don't know, let's use the context of Israel as an example, since that is the biggest story right now. If you simply give the context that Israel is defending themselves, that they are responding to the acts on October 7th, then that inherently is giving a dishonest perspective. Even if that is not being presented as the anchor's bias or perspective, that is delivering a dishonest report. Whereas if you actually give the honest facts, objectively discuss what is happening, what has happened historically between Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank, how Israel controls these two pieces of land, how there's been a blockade in Gaza for years, meaning lack of food, lack of medicine, lack of resources. People in Gaza don't control their own borders, aren't able to, they don't even control their own waters, their own air. So if that added perspective is there, and you give the greater perspective of the amount of deaths on both sides over years, and look at the complete power imbalance and the separation of rights, both in Israel and as it applies to the West Bank, to Gaza, it creates a real picture of what is going on there. And then you can add your perspective. If a news report does this, gives the objective reality of what is going on, and then adds the perspective on top of that, that then makes others who are not doing that seem less honest, because they are just dumping in all their perspective with the objective reporting, making people mistrust what they're actually being told. And this gets to a larger issue, or not an issue, but the reason why streamers are so popular. A lot of people thought, myself included in some way, thought that once Tucker was fired from Fox News, that he'd be able to continue on and have a successful online career. Now, I knew that would still not be completely true, because the Fox News audience skews incredibly old. So there isn't any guarantee that someone like Tucker is going to be able to bring an older audience to an online outlet. But regardless, I figured because of the power he had on Fox News and in far-right media, that he'd be able to carry that audience that he had, or that he grew, into an online space. And he really hasn't. Like, Tucker is nowhere to be seen. He has a show. I think some people watch it. It must get views. Twitter tells me it has views. But he has nowhere near the kind of power that he once had. He doesn't make headlines like the way that he once did. His perspective isn't looked to by far-right outlets or by far-right individuals the way that it once was. And that's because Tucker Carlson is a television personality. He is, and that means essentially he has no personality. If you watch his online show, he's trying to replicate what his Fox News show was. He's trying to be the same Tucker, but on Twitter, meaning he's still reading off a teleprompter. He still has no personality. He's still weird. The moments of personality that he has, if this even counts, is when he laughs. And his laugh also appears incredibly fake and manufactured. So he is not able to grow a real audience online because he's clearly just a news actor trying to have an online show. Compare that to actual popular streamers online who have growing audiences. People actually trust them, even if they may disagree with them at points. They can trust them because, and this, again, doesn't apply to everybody. Of course, there are streamers online who are just completely batshit insane. But in terms of those that are worth watching, the good ones are able to present the news as the news is, and then also give their perspective. And you know who they are. I mean, that's a big reason why streamers are why they're able to generate audiences that news anchors can't, is because streamers have real personalities. Someone like Tucker doesn't. The whole reason I'm discussing any of this is if there is any hope for media to bring people back to reality, and as opposed to further separating them, it's to maybe learn something from the online space. Maybe understand why there is such oftentimes, especially from younger generations, so much more trust for online streamers compared to what the actual news is delivering them. It's because there is that clear perspective. There is that clear personality there. If the news is able to do that, but better in the sense where you're really separating the objective reality from the perspective, then you could almost have a more polished version of what a streamer is online. And I don't mean polished in terms of, more established, more frightened to say what you want to say, but more polished in terms of having that real understanding of what the news is and what opinion is. But the chances of that happening with massive corporations controlling the airwaves is not high. It's not going to happen. But that would be how you would bring people back to reality. That's it. one last thing I wanted to share just before I go. I wanted to see if there was any hot mic moments for streamers, since we see a ton of hot mic moments for anchors. Streamers can't really have a hot mic moment because the good ones, the real ones, control their own audio, unless you're like, the Daily Wire and you're one of those fake streamers. But so I searched up streamer hot mic moment or streamer caught on hot mic. The first story that I got was Vivek Ramaswamy caught on hot mic using the bathroom. So there, as far as I saw, there was no news story of any kind of Twitch streamer being caught on a hot mic, because again, it's not really possible. Yes, streamers say things they don't mean to say. You wouldn't really think of that as a hot mic, but that just goes to, again, their personality, who they are. This is just, you can argue a stream being caught on a hot mic, but not necessarily a streamer, more a stream into the urinal. But that's it. I got nothing else to add here. I want your thoughts. Is there any hope in saving news, in saving what the news is? And look, that doesn't mean I don't just mean cable news. I understand the viewership for traditional news, national news, cable news is dwindling, and people aren't going to sit down at 6 o'clock or 11 p.m. to watch the news. But there should still be a space for for objective reporting, for real news anchors. But I still think the only way to really remain relevant for a news anchor for real objective reporting is to also allow a space for perspective after that reporting. But what are your thoughts?